Welcome to the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast, where we take you inside our gym, CrossFit Palm Beach, each week. It's here that we are creating new superhumans every day, transforming people's lives, helping them reach a level of health they never knew possible. We strive to answer your most burning questions on fitness, health, nutrition, training, motivation, mindset, lifestyle, and more. If you have a question, please email us at info@crossfitpalmbeach.com. You can also learn more on our blog, livingsuperhuman.com. And if you have a moment, we'd love a review from you on iTunes. All right, it's time. Let's stop being average and start living superhuman. Hey guys, welcome to the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast. My name is Andrew Frezza, and we're going to start by talking about what we had for breakfast this morning, because our podcast is on morning routines. So I had a smoothie with a shot of espresso.
I'm Katie Richardson, and I had hot black coffee.
Austin, and I had eggs with some mushrooms, spinach, in a tortilla.
Wow.
Fancy.
Yeah.
I'm Tony, and I had my protein shake that I have every morning, which is cashew milk, protein powder, bone broth brand, greens powder, maca powder, cacao powder, and MCT oil.
You're sounding
I think I got everything in there.
That sounds fancy.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking about morning routines and how they can set you up to win the day. And we feel pretty strongly that if you can win the morning, that you can win the rest of the day. Those first couple hours really determine what kind of day you're gonna have. So we're just gonna kind of kick it off and just kind of bounce back some ideas. Like, what are the things that for you guys are non-negotiables in the morning that you really feel like have an impact on the rest of your day?
I think it starts at night, like kind of setting up I lay out my clothes every night before bed. I kind of plan for the day, just as long as I'm dressing better than Coach Robbie. I think I'm doing pretty good. He matches really well, so I know I have to match better than him, and then maybe pick out.
And then you shoot me a picture, so I make sure to match you.
Of course, apparently, it's like brother intuition that we do that. But and then my wife Shannon, she kind of handles like the kids stuff, like to set out their clothes and their stuff for school. And that's really big if you guys are parents out there, like kind of getting your life in order the night before, in order to have a good morning start.
Yeah, we were talking about that. We brought this up in our meeting yesterday, and it was funny how everyone kind of brought up some element of that. Some of them are meal prepping the night before, some are laying out workout clothes, some are getting the kids set up. For me, it's more of like deciding what my priorities are going to be first thing in the morning, which I'll get into more detail in a little bit. But figuring out some kind of plan the night before, so that way you're kind of, as soon as you wake up, you know what those first steps are going to be. You're not guessing and then leaving things open. So what do you guys got?
I mean, mine is basically I eat the same thing every morning. It's just black coffee every morning. And my roommate actually does all the prep for me. So Coach Whitney and I live together, and every night it's, okay, when do you have work in the morning? And I'll tell her when, and she sets the coffee to go off 5 minutes before I have to leave the house every morning.
Wait, that does that for you?
It's the best. She sets the timer for me every night because she's sure not going to get up that early.
Yeah, it's like the Jetsons.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so I have to start with a shower. That's the very first thing I do every single morning. I get up, just hop in the shower. It's kind of hard to wake yourself up at 4 a.m., so I think just a little bit of water in my face does a little good. So that, and then the morning breakfast I actually cooked the night before, so that's kind of my get ready for the morning and then go. So
yeah, and Austin and I were working together a little bit on the nutrition side, and there were so many mornings that you were missing that.
Yeah. So
that's why it became a night before thing, and now it's something that you very rarely miss, is that good meal first thing in the morning, which is cool. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about my morning. My mornings have gone from, I've done the super formal thing where I'm doing like 5 minutes of headspace, meditation, and I've done that 90 days in a row and never missed a day. I've done the 5-minute journal, which is awesome as well, which is like writing down 3 things you're grateful for, and then writing down like a priority for the day that you want to accomplish, which all of that stuff is great. And I kind of bounce back between like really formal stuff and really informal stuff. Right now I'm in more of an informal stage. I don't know if that's just because I have an almost 2-year-old at home, but like the non-negotiables for me in my mornings is actually have greens every morning, like just a greens powder with a tall glass of water. And I find that just getting some nutrients first thing in the morning, getting that hydration first thing in the morning, I feel the difference almost immediately. Really the informal thing is more of a not to-do list for me. So I don't go straight to my phone. I don't go straight to email. I don't go to social media. The TV in our house in general is just, it's never turned on before like maybe 4 p.m. at the earliest, even on like weekends. So those things, the not to-dos are almost as important as the to-dos for me, as I've not held myself accountable to like the 5-minute journal or the headspace at times.
I mean, my biggest thing is, and it's been this way for about 6 months now, is create before you consume. So as soon as my alarm goes off, that's the last time I look at my phone until after I've left the house. And that's been big for me, because there was a point where I was opening my eyes and then reading my email in bed, and I found that every time I did that, I felt frazzled for the rest of the day. I felt like I was already on edge because people aren't emailing me to tell me what a great job I'm doing. They're emailing me because something went wrong, and immediately my first thought of the day was, oh my gosh, something's gone wrong. And now, by not even looking at my phone after that point and making an intention to create something in it, whether it's writing one thing down, writing down an idea, or it's stringing, like just putting one new piece into a lacrosse stick I'm stringing, it's something where I am putting something out there as opposed to taking things in, is super helpful in like setting my mindset for the day. And I find that I'm a lot more centered after doing that, as opposed to immediately getting up and scrolling through Instagram or going through emails.
I love that. I've never heard that actually said so succinctly, create before you consume. And I think that's a great motto. Love it.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a formal way of like meditating, and we'll get into it later with like Coach Zach. Like I know he has like a formal way of doing it, like, but that shower for me, or even the drive here, is just like, I'm just by myself super early in the morning, and that's where I can think. And in the car right here, it's like a podcast of some sort where I can start listening or learning something, some sort. And it changes every day of like what the actual subject matter is. But as long as I'm just trying to learn something instead of scrolling through Facebook, which is so easy to do, and that's an every morning thing for me.
It's just yourself on this podcast.
Yeah.
On repeat. It's like, man, I sound good.
Yeah. Man, that was really good. Yeah.
Trying to sound even better today.
Let me rewind that one more time.
Yeah, I think that's so important to be like proactive with your morning, because that's how you kind of lead the rest of your day. And that's why we're talking about morning routines, is because it sets the tone for the whole rest of your day. And like Andrew, like I have the Daily Stoic, and I make sure I read that every morning. So it's like 5 minutes of reading that, and also entering in the journal that comes with it, the Daily Stoic journal, answering their questions and the passages. That's been really helpful for me to do every single morning. In addition to that, I also have like a family journal where I'll just kind of write about like what the kids did yesterday, just because, as everyone tells you, it happens so fast, right? And you're gonna forget it. You're gonna like have this like blur of pictures in your phone that you like don't even go back to for years. But it's helpful to have like, oh wow, like that's how I felt, or like that's how Ariel did that thing that made us all crack up, that I can really remember by writing it down. And that just fills my day with like gratitude. Like, what am I doing this for? Why do I come to the gym? I have a family to support, and like I do everything for them. So it's really like important that sets the stage for what I'm doing the rest of the day.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that like your morning routine is just about what's important to you. Like exactly what you're saying is, I think some people, they think that, oh, my morning routine has to be meditation, it has to be a workout, and like they have this 9-to-5 job where they're like, listen, I don't really have control over the next 8 to 9 hours of my day. It's kind of at the mercy of someone else's schedule, and they feel like I only have a couple hours, so I want to have that just like downtime. And I think it's really important to get something that's important to you, whether it's time with family or journaling about, family, or maybe you're working on a side business or a side project and you get something done before you walk into work that morning. There's so many things that you can tailor to you. It's just figuring out like, what do you value? What are your priorities? And how can I get like at least one of those things done first thing in the morning?
And there's such a huge value to using that time and just being super present. So like when you're in that like podcast ride over, like you're super present. And I joke that like Pip is like the best thing that ever happened to me, but every morning for at least 20 minutes, my whole morning routine has shifted now 20 to 30 minutes earlier so that I can go take her for a walk and just be with her and just play with her for those 20 minutes. And there's so many people who are like, I can't imagine setting my alarm earlier. And I'm like, I can't imagine not having that time with her in the mornings.
Yeah.
Because that just sets, I leave feeling that gratitude of like, oh my gosh, how lucky am I? And like that 20 minutes is just of being present is so cool, because you go out and all of a sudden you're on everyone else's agenda. Yeah. Everyone else has something that they need you to do, want you to do, and you're on their timeline. But at least for that 20 minutes, it's, okay, I'm on my timeline right now and I'm here in this moment, which is very cool. Once everything else starts bustling, it becomes hard to go back into that moment.
I think that's so important to mention, like the time factor too, because like you mentioned, like 20 minutes of it to add, or I guess take away from your sleep. Like, because a lot of people will hear this and be like, you want me to wake up 20 minutes earlier to like do stuff? Like I can barely function like till I get to the coffee maker. Like, and so what I would say is like that 20 minutes is definitely worth it. You don't have to do a whole hour earlier to fit in, inventing something or creating a business. Like just 20 minutes, it can be a big difference. Just all the stuff that I do is just journaling and making the shake and all that stuff. It's 20 minutes.
Yeah, and I think for Tony and I, a lot of this inspiration came from reading the book, The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, which I think if this stuff interests you, I would highly recommend going to that book. It's very simple read, but very powerful. And he kind of breaks down some of the things that he tries to hit. Like it could be done in an hour, it could be done in 20 minutes, it could be done in 5 minutes, which is starting the day in silence, not with like incoming notifications and checking your phone, using affirmations. So he's big on starting your day with positive affirmations, visualization and visualizing success, visualizing, taking on your most important task of the day, something that's maybe uncomfortable to you, doing exercise, which a lot of our members are great at. But I would say even if you're a night person, you want to get moving somehow first thing in the day, even if it's not your workout of the day. Reading and then journaling or scribing, he calls it. So his acronym for that is SAVERS, and you guys can look that up. But I think the one thing that I always go back to in the book is what we've already talked about, is the night before. Like if you want any of this to happen the morning of, you have to make it happen the night before. And a couple things that he talked about was cleaning up your nightly routine, like not being on the TV so long, not being on your phone so long. Like if you can get to bed 30 minutes earlier, you can wake up 20 minutes earlier and feel better. He also talks about with sleep, he talks about getting enough sleep, but that when we wake up groggy, a lot of the times it's the things we're telling ourselves before we go to the bed, that I'm only gonna get 5 hours of sleep, I'm only gonna get 6 hours of sleep. Instead of being like, I'm gonna wake up in 6 hours and I'm gonna hop out of bed jacked to do whatever I'm gonna be doing that next day. He talks about like, yeah, sleep is very important, but for the days you're not gonna get it, instead of telling yourself the story about how bad you're gonna feel in the morning, tell yourself the story about how good you're gonna feel and how excited you are for that thing. Because we've all done it, whether it be in college, if we have to go back that far, we've all had those times where we've had little sleep and we've still had an awesome day. So why can't that be tomorrow?
Yeah, definitely. Let's hit on exercise, because I think that the E of the SAVERS, that's a big one. And yeah, when we did our challenge most recently, we wrote a lot of stuff catered to the morning people, because we do feel like physiologically in our bodies, like we were meant to move in the morning. When the sun comes up, move, sweat, take your shower. And like whether or not you're gonna hit the CrossFit workout specifically, like just get out there, go for that walk to get your body moving, because then with it usually comes a shower. And as Austin can tell you, it's amazing to get that shower in the morning.
Yeah, I have a rule of thumb now, which is like sweat before noon. Like that's my goal, because I'm big on off days and rest days from the intensity of CrossFit, because when I'm in here, I like to think that I work hard and like my body needs those days. But I've just found that if I take, like on a Sunday especially, if I take a day where I don't sweat at all, I don't feel as good. So, now it doesn't take much. It's just like usually I have Cooper with me on Sunday mornings, which is kind of part of my morning routine, is I always have him on Thursdays and Sundays. But on Sundays, we'll go out for a run, and then we'll stop at the park, and then we'll run home. So I get my sweat in, we get to play at the park, and I feel so much better just from that little bit of breaking a sweat, and the time with him is awesome too. But the exercise point was what we were talking about. So that's my theory, is sweat before noon every day.
The kid's great, but the exercise, that's what we're here for.
We'll get back to the kid.
Yeah, I used to be, I would want to start my morning with working out like before even eating. It would just be working out. Now, since I do coach that earliest class, now it's more 7 to 8 a.m., but it's still like one of the first things I want to do. And I know if I put it off like past probably noon, honestly, like you were saying, it's like chances of me actually doing it are going to start slimming down a lot. I'll come up with something like, well, I have to get this done, or I need to do this. Like, I don't give myself an excuse in the morning. It's just like, that's just part of your schedule. Like, get it done. And it's not something I like have to do. It's just I want to do it. And I know if it creeps a little bit further on, it's not something I want to do anymore. It's something that I have to do. And I don't want exercise to be like that for me. So I want to do it.
Yeah, it's funny how you've also, because we were talking about in our meeting yesterday, is you've defined waking up early as part of your perfect day now, which is really cool. So like coaching and working out early and being up early is not just something you have to do, but it's literally part of your perfect day, which is cool.
Yeah, and it's like, I know people always say like how do you wake up that early? And it's like, waking up that early is never easy. Like, as soon as I hear my alarm, it's like, okay, I have to get up. But it's not like, oh yeah, 4 a.m., like I've got to get up. Like, I still struggle every single morning, even though I've been doing it for 6 years, to like literally make the jump out of bed. But as soon as I do, and as soon as I take my shower or work out, like I feel great. So it's like, if you can get past that 2 seconds of like, this isn't the most fun place to be in, like it's great. And like now it's like you're saying, like I want to start my day that early so I can get whatever else accomplished. So
I think that's a great time to bring up never hit snooze.
Never
hit snooze. Never hit snooze. Because I think it was on a Ben Bergeron podcast that he said basically what you're doing is you're procrastinating on your day. The very first decision you get to make all day is one of procrastination and sort of putting your life off. And I think that's, no matter what, never hit snooze.
Yeah, well, I'll read the quote from Dimitri Martin, who's a comedian. He says, if you really think about it, hitting the snooze button in the morning doesn't even make sense. It's like saying, I hate getting up in the morning, so I do it over and over and over again.
yeah.
Let's talk about what some of our coaches do. You touched on Zach. So Coach Zach does, he reads the Bible every morning. He does some prayer, he does some meditation. He said that typically on average he takes about 30 minutes a day to do that every single day, and that just puts him in the mental state that he wants to be in every single day. And then like Monday mornings he coaches bright and early, so he might miss that. He said sometimes he'll do an expedited version of it for maybe just a quick 5 minutes, or he'll come back and lunch and do it. It's that important. So for him it really is a non-negotiable that he has that every single day. For Melissa, it's all about the kids. She's doing all that stuff that we talked about the night before to make sure that when she starts her day, and there's many times where she's at the gym before 5:30 a.m. several days a week. So she's got to be dialed in the night before to make that stuff happen, in addition to be kind of driven on the career side. And then for Haley and Danielle, it's all about the meal prep side. Danielle does all hers the night before. Haley could spend as much as an hour in the morning doing all that stuff, meal prepping. But that's really what it takes to be successful. And I think I think meal prepping is something that is ignored. I think some people will just do it on a Sunday, or they won't do it at all, when most of us could find that 20 minutes to set ourselves up for success for the entire day, food-wise. Let's kind of move on. So what do you guys want to touch on next? I can go into something that I just found recently.
So part of my routine is like if I kind of get done with the other stuff quickly, like the journal, the family journal and the Stoic journal, all just pull up like a Goalcast video. If you guys are familiar with Goalcast, they like post inspiring videos and good speeches and stuff. And like one of them that's been pretty popular recently is from like he's like a head Marine guy, like in the Navy or whatever it is. And he's just like, you know, when you wake up, make your bed. Like first thing in the morning, make your bed.
Yeah, I think that's Stan McChrystal, I think. Is that the one?
I barely even know his rank. I wouldn't know his rank. But yeah, I mean, it's just his speech is so powerful and it's so true. Like, you know, that's a place that you spend like a third of your life in bed. Like have the decency to like get out of it and like make it look nice so that when you come back to it at night, it looks like inviting. You know, it just looks inviting throughout the day, you know.
Yeah, it's, I think especially for someone that might work at home, you come home for lunch, every time you walk past your bed, it's more of that like, it's like those empty browsers on Google Chrome that are sitting there. It's that task list that you're not doing. It's a reminder of all the things you're not doing. Whereas when you walk past that bed throughout the day and you see it, it's that reminder of like, hey, if I accomplished nothing else, I accomplished that today, and it looks good. And now I can move on to that next thing, whatever that next important thing is for me. Like, you know, I know I'm going to follow through with it.
Yeah. And I can't make my bed because my kids are still in it and my wife is still in it. But when I do leave the house, I metaphorically and very literally like make the room for my wife. Like I'll make sure like the Keurig's on, the water's full, like the counters are clean, the trash and the recycling are out. And just making sure like little things are taken care of so like her day can go a little bit smoother. So that's my like making my bed.
Cool. So I want to talk about something that I just literally started 4 days ago. And I didn't start it for this podcast. I actually listened to a podcast and I go, I got to do that because it sounds amazing. And it's literally been the most productive week that I've had in a while. And I feel like I've been very productive coming into this week. And it's something called the Powerless. And basically what it is just writing down 5 things that are important to you that aren't your normal to-dos. It's not stuff that you would do normally in a given week that will make that day a successful day. And there are 5 things that are 100% under your control. There are 5 things that relate to, you know, values and bigger long-term goals that you're striving for, whether that be being a better parent, being a better, you know, husband or wife, building a business, moving up the career ladder, getting healthier, and having that 5 list and no more than that. Okay, and that's really the key. Is that most of us, we have a traditional to-do list and we just keep adding, and most of that stuff really isn't that important. Nothing on there in most people's to-do list is going to move the needle anywhere. And then what happens is because we don't prioritize, we don't know what's really important, we do one of 2 things. Usually we dive into email too quickly, we get into the news, we start consuming before we hit our most important tasks of the day, or we have a great day, we are super productive, but we look at all the things we still have yet to do and we hang that over our heads and then we're distracted at home. And the thing that's really cool about this list is that once you're done, you can be done at 9 in the morning, you're done for the day. Like you can then work on whatever you want, you can screw around if you want, you know, you can go and just be present with your family, whatever it is, but it's only 5 things. So that's been really important for me this past week, and I mean, it's already had an impact, and it's something that I want to continue ongoing. You can make it 2 things, you can make it 3 things, but the key is you can't go more than 5, and it's very different from a to-do list in that everything is moving the needle for what you value and what are the first priorities of your life.
I have a journal, and it's the big 3 in my journal, and it's every day, and it's such a sense of accomplishment to be able to check off all 3 things, and it's almost like a weight. As soon as you check those 3 things off, you're like, okay, there's still other things to do today, but if I had to go to sleep right now, or I am just not feeling well, or I have my niece's Christmas recital, whatever it is, like I can feel comfortable going and doing that and knowing that I have done what I needed to do for the day. And then after that, everything else is, okay, now I can just add to this. This is all a bonus.
I think this goes pretty hand in hand with the book that our book club is covering. Essentialism is like the same thing. Like, what is the most important things that you guys need to get done or tasks that you need to complete throughout the day, and like make those your priority. And it's still something that I know I can get better at because I still feel like I have a checklist, but my checklist again is like I can add something else here and there, and it's like, is it really something that has to be done today, or are like these the most important thing? So.
Yeah, and just making sure it's your checklist,
Yeah,
you know, because typically you get to work, whatever, you get, you know, something handed down to you, whatever, and it's someone else's problems that you're looking at when you can be in charge of your 3 most important things and set those.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just framing. It's taking the same thing you already do and then framing it. So talk about Cooper again. I'll bring him back up. Is like, you know, as parents, we all spend time with our kids. Like that's happening for everybody. But like, how are you maximizing that time? So like now with Sundays and Thursdays, like I make it sound like Nikki and I are split up and we have our time, but like we're very much together. Those are just dedicated
Cooper
times that are Daddy Cooper times that are in my calendar. That, you know, Sunday morning she comes and works out and does Beach Fit and yoga back to back, or Thursdays she's able to go right into working on Nikki's coconut butter and not have to worry about any of Cooper's stuff in the morning. And like our Sundays are always at Harborside at the fountains. Our Thursdays are always walking to Constitution Park to play on the swings, rather than like pulling out the iPad, pulling out the TV. So just being intentional, and that is on my power list. Like that was on my power list this morning. So that way when I'm doing that time with Cooper, it's not like, all right, let's get through this so I can go work on the podcast, because that's more important. This is one of my power list things for today. And once I check that off the list, like I was super present with him, then I'm accomplished in that morning, rather than feeling like I'm behind now because I started my morning later than I might normally do it.
And there's such a power into writing those things down, and either writing them down the night before or making that part of your morning routine of like, this morning, okay, what are my big 3 things today? Because it's just so easy, especially if you don't write it down, to get into this mindset of I didn't get anything done today. And it's like, okay, you just did 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours of your life. I'm sure you did something, but because you didn't write it down and check it off, you're like, I feel like I just still have so much to do. And I think that there's such a power in writing it down, and it focuses you for that day as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I just want to share that podcast that I listened to. It was the MF CEO podcast. I don't know what MF stands for, but that was episode 107. I'm also listening to number 9, which kind of follows up on that. But just listening to that episode 107 was like enough for me to get the gist of what I needed to do. And like I said, it's already led to one of the most productive weeks I've had in a really long time. So if you guys want to follow up on that, and then the Miracle Morning was that book that we talked about with Hal Elrod. Was there anything else that you guys want to touch on before we wrap it up?
I don't think so.
All right. That's it, guys. Thanks for joining us. Have a great morning.
Yes. High fives. Go. You just want me so hanging.